She was hours away from being killed pregnant, trapped, and blamed for a crime she didn't commit. The order was signed. The cage was ready. But then, one man stepped forward, standing between her and certain death. What should have been the end turned into the beginning of something far more dangerous, because this wasn't just about saving one animal. There were secrets hidden inside her story. Secrets powerful people would do anything to bury, and when the fight to protect her uncovers a truth no one saw coming, lives will be put on the line. Will courage be enough to stop the forces determined to silence her forever? Or will this desperate stand end in tragedy? Before we dive in, say hello in the comments. I love knowing where these stories are finding a home. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Colton Safari Park as a small crowd gathered near the leopard enclosure. The air was thick with tension as park staff shuffled nervously, their eyes fixed on the magnificent creature within. Sable, a sleek black leopard with piercing amber eyes, paced in her enclosure, her movements slower than usual due to her swollen belly. For public safety concerns, we have no choice but to euthanize the animal, Derek Colton announced, his expensive hunting jacket gleaming in the sunlight. His voice carried the practiced smoothness of someone used to getting his way. The incident this morning proved she's become too dangerous to keep. In the preparation area behind the enclosure, a vet technician readied the lethal injection. The dart rifle lay ominously on a metal table, its presence casting a shadow over the room. Just as the syringe was being filled, heavy footsteps thundered. Down the corridor, Keaton Hale burst through the door, his weathered face tight with determination. Without hesitation, he pulled a length of chain from his work jacket and quickly wrapped it around his waist. In one fluid motion, he secured himself between the dart rifle and Sable's holding area. "What do you think you're doing?" Colton demanded, his polished exterior cracking to reveal barely contained rage. "What's right?" Keaton answered, his voice steady despite the gravity of his actions. The scar along his jawline seemed to deepen as he set his jaw. "That incident was staged, and you know it. Sable's never shown aggression in the 3 years she's been here." Two security guards moved forward at Colton's gesture, but Keaton's unwavering stance made them hesitate. The chains clinked softly as he shifted, planting his feet more firmly. "Remove him," Colton ordered, his face reddening. "Now wait." A clear voice cut through the tension. Greer Larkin stepped forward, her practical glasses catching the light as she moved. She held up a portable ultrasound machine. "Let me scan her first. Something's not right about this." Colton started to object, but the gathered crowd's murmurs made him pause. With cameras and phones recording the scene, he couldn't afford to appear unreasonable. "Make it quick," he snapped. Greer approached Sable's enclosure carefully, her movements calm and practiced. The leopard watched her with intelligent eyes, allowing her to perform the scan through the bars. After a few moments, Greer's face lit up with confirmation. "She's pregnant," Greer announced, turning the screen so others could see. "These are cubs. She's days away from giving birth." A collective gasp rose from the onlookers. Colton's face darkened as he realized his position had become untenable. With the public watching and evidence of the pregnancy clear, he couldn't proceed with the execution without risking serious backlash. "Fine," he ground out through clenched teeth. "We'll delay this discussion until after the cubs are born." He turned to Keaton, who still stood chained and resolute. "But this isn't over." As the crowd began to disperse, Greer approached Keaton with a small key she'd retrieved from the supply cabinet. While helping him remove the chains, she spoke softly. "That was either the bravest or craziest thing I've ever seen." Keaton rubbed his wrists where the chains had bit into them. "Sometimes they're the same thing." His eyes met hers, and a moment of understanding passed between them. They both knew this was just the beginning of a larger fight. In her enclosure, Sable settled into her corner, her body curled protectively around her unborn cubs. For now, at least, they were safe, thanks to one man's unthinkable act of defiance and a woman's quick thinking. The afternoon sun continued its descent, casting long shadows across the park. As the day's events set in motion, a chain of events that would change everything at Colton Safari Park. Time was ticking away as Keaton, Greer, and Dr. Harlan Preece huddled around Sable's enclosure. The retired wildlife surgeon's weathered hands moved with practiced precision as he examined the leopard through the protective barriers. "Careful now," Dr. Preece murmured, his gray hair catching the light as he leaned in closer. Years of field experience showed in every deliberate movement. "She's not displaying typical aggressive behavior. Look at her body language." Sable lay on her side, her sleek black coat rising and falling with each labored breath. Her amber eyes, though alert, showed no signs of the reported aggression. "Her breathing is shallow," Greer observed, jotting notes on her clipboard. "And see how she's favoring her left side. That's consistent with late-term pregnancy discomfort, not aggressive." Posturing, Keaton paced near the enclosure, his broad shoulders tense with worry. 12 hours. That's all Colton gave us before he makes another attempt." He paused, running a hand along his scarred jawline. "Something about this whole situation doesn't add up." A television mounted in the corner of the examination area caught their attention. Derek Colton's polished face filled the screen as he stood before a crowd of reporters. The handler was fortunate to escape with minor injuries, Colton announced, his expensive hunting jacket gleaming under the camera lights. We take public safety very seriously at Colton Safari Park. While we understand the concern for the animal's condition, we cannot risk another incident. That's a lie, Keaton growled, stepping closer to the screen. Where's this injured handler? I want to see these supposed bite marks. Dr. Priest straightened up, his joints creaking slightly. In my 40 years of working with big cats, I've seen what genuine bite wounds look like. They're not something you can hide or walk away from. Celie Greer pulled up the incident report on her tablet. The handler's name is listed as James Morton, but, she frowned, scrolling through the document. I've never seen him around the park before. Because he doesn't exist, Keaton said firmly. Colton's fabricating this whole thing. But why? What's so important about Sable that he'd go to these lengths? They watched as Sable shifted position, her movements careful and deliberate. Dr. Priest moved closer to the enclosure, his experienced eyes noting every detail. She's showing classic signs of pre-birth stress, he explained. The pacing, the shallow breathing, the way she's protecting her left side, these are all normal behaviors for a leopard this close to giving birth. What she needs is calm and proper medical care, not euthanasia. Greer stepped forward, adjusting her practical glasses. I can pull up the security footage from when this supposed bite incident happened. Every enclosure has 24-hour surveillance. Do it, Keaton urged. Moving to stand beside her as she accessed the system, the footage revealed empty spaces and normal routines. No signs of any incident, no injured handler, no aggressive behavior from Sable, just routine feeding and care, followed by normal resting periods. This is our proof, Keaton said, his voice tight with controlled anger. Colton's trying to eliminate Sable before the cubs are born. But why? What's he hiding? Dr. Priest's weathered face creased with concern. Whatever his reasons, we can't let him succeed. That leopard and her cubs deserve a chance. We need to move fast, Greer added, checking her watch. Colton will try to reclaim control of the situation as soon as he can. He's already got the media spinning his version of events. Keaton nodded, his expression determined. Then we protect her. We document everything, gather evidence, and make sure the truth comes out before he can act again. I'll start preparing a medical assessment, Dr. Priest offered, pulling out his worn notebook. Official documentation of her actual condition might help buy us more time. The three of them worked quickly, gathering data and evidence, knowing that somewhere in the park, Colton was already planning his next move. Sable watched them through the bars of her enclosure, her amber eyes seeming to understand that these humans were fighting for her survival. Derek Colton paced in his wood-paneled office, his expensive boots wearing a path in the carpet. The afternoon sun caught the hunting trophies mounted on the walls, casting long shadows across his troubled face. His phone buzzed again, another message from his contacts demanding updates about the leopard situation. This is getting out of hand, he muttered, loosening his collar. The sight of Keaton Hale chained to that enclosure had shaken him more than he cared to admit. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Send in Reedon. Moments later, Cass Reedon slipped into the office like a shadow. His lean frame and hawk-like features matched his reputation for getting messy jobs done quietly. Tattoos peeked out from beneath his rolled sleeves as he stood before Colton's desk. We need this problem handled, Colton said, his voice tight, quietly, professional-like. Do you understand? Do you understand? Reddin's thin lips curved into a knowing smile. Always do, boss. What's the play? Try money first. Everyone has a price. Colton pulled an envelope from his desk drawer. $50,000 cash. If that doesn't work, he let the sentence hang unfinished. Across the park, Keaton sat in the staff break room, reviewing security footage with Greer. Their coffee had gone cold, forgotten in the intensity of their search for evidence. The door creaked open, and Cass Reddin stepped in, his presence immediately changing the atmosphere. Mr. Hale, Reddin said smoothly. Got a minute? Private conversation. Greer shot Keaton a worried look, but he nodded reassuringly. Keep looking. Through those feeds, I'll be right back. Outside in the empty corridor, Reddin got straight to business. He pulled out the envelope, letting it tap against his palm. 50,000 reasons to walk away from this mess, Hale. Take a vacation. Forget about the cat. Keaton's face hardened. Not interested. Smart man like you should know when to cut his losses. Reddin's voice dropped lower, taking on an edge. Some situations can get dangerous. Accidents happen, especially around big cats. That a threat? Reddin just sharing some friendly advice. Reddin's smile never reached his eyes. A lot of people have invested interests here. Don't want to see anyone get hurt over one cat? Keaton stepped closer, using his broader frame to full effect. Tell Colton to save his money. I'm not going anywhere. After Reddin left, Keaton's hands shook slightly as he pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts until he found the number he needed. Mira Benning, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They had crossed paths years ago during another wildlife case. She answered on the third ring. Benning, Mira, it's Keaton Hale. We've got a situation at Colton Safari Park. Something bigger than just one leopard. Keaton, her voice sharpened with interest. Derek Colton's operation has been on our radar for months. We suspect he's running exotic animals through the park to cover illegal trafficking. Then help us stop him. He's trying to put down a pregnant leopard for no reason. Just had his man try to bribe me to walk away. Bribes, that's new for Colton. Papers rustled in the background, but I need solid evidence before I can move. Proof of illegal activities, documentation of false records, anything concrete. How long would that take? Keaton asked, frustration evident in his voice. Even with evidence, getting approval for a raid takes time. Bureaucracy moves slow. Keaton, you know that. He glanced back toward the break room where Greer waited. The leopard doesn't have time. She's due in days. I'm sorry, Mira said, genuine regret in her tone. Keep gathering evidence. Document everything. But for now, you're on your own. Keaton ended the call and returned to the break room. Greer looked up expectantly, her glasses slightly askew from leaning close to the screen. No immediate help from Fish and Wildlife, he said, dropping heavily into a chair. And Colton just tried to buy me off. Greer's eyes widened. How much? $50,000. Delivered with a side of threats by his personal fixer. They're really scared of what we might find, Greer said, turning back to the security footage. Which means we're probably looking in the right direction. Keaton nodded, his jaw set with determination. We keep digging. Whatever Colton's hiding, it's big enough that he's willing to kill an endangered leopard and her cubs to keep it quiet. They returned to their work, now acutely aware that somewhere in the park, unfriendly eyes were watching their every move. The attempted bribe had made one thing crystal clear. They weren't just fighting to save one animal anymore. They had stumbled onto something much darker, and Keaton knew he had just painted a target on his back. The evening sun cast long shadows across the parking lot as Keaton and Greer carefully guided the transport carrier containing Sable from their van into Dr. Priest's private clinic. The leopard's labored breathing echoed inside the metal carrier, each step taken with utmost care to minimize her distress. Dr. Priest held the clinic's back door open, his weathered face tight with concern. Straight to the monitoring room, he directed in a hushed voice. We need to get her vitals stabilized. The small clinic, normally reserved for local wildlife emergencies, had been cleared of other patients. Its worn linoleum floors and familiar antiseptic smell provided a strange comfort as they moved through the dimly lit hallway. Easy now, Greer murmured as they settled the carrier. Her skilled hands worked quickly to attach monitoring equipment while Dr. Priest prepared medications. Her heart rates elevated. Doctor, not surprising given the stress, Priest replied, drawing up a mild sedative. Let's make her more comfortable before a sharp knock at the front door cut him off. Through the window, they could see Deputy Orson Pike's tall figure silhouetted against the fading daylight. Keep working, Keaton said quietly. I'll handle this. He opened the door to find Pike looking uncomfortable, a formal document in his hand. The deputy's badge caught the last rays of sunlight as he shifted his weight. Evening, Keaton, Pike, said his voice, carrying a note of reluctance. Got a court order here. Judge Blackwood signed it about an hour ago. Colton's demanding immediate return of his property, the leopard. Keaton's jaw tightened as he took the paper, scanning its contents. Judge Blackwood. Isn't he the one who goes hunting with Colton every season? Pike glanced over his shoulder. Before stepping closer, listen, he said in a lower voice. I've got to serve this officially, but you should know, Greer. He raised his voice slightly, making sure she could hear from where she stood in the hallway. That judge, Colton share more than just hunting trips. They've got some kind of business arrangement going back years. Greer moved forward, understanding the deputy's subtle warning. Thanks for letting us know, Orson. Don't thank me, Pike said, straightening his uniform. Officially, I was never here for anything except serving papers. But, he paused at the door. Whatever you're doing, be careful. Colton's got friends in high places. After Pike left, Keaton handed the court order to Dr. Priest, who read it with growing anger. This is absurd, the veteran surgeon muttered. They can't move her in this condition. The cubs would never survive the stress. They don't care about the cubs, Keaton said grimly. This was never about public safety. Colton wants her gone, and now we know why. He's got something to hide, something big enough to call in favors from a judge. A moan from Sable drew their attention. Greer hurried back to check the monitors, her face creased with worry. Her contractions are getting stronger, but it's too early. We need more time. Keaton stood at the window, watching darkness settle over the parking lot. He knew Colton wouldn't wait long before sending someone to enforce the order. The system was stacked against them, a corrupt judge, a powerful businessman, and nowhere left to turn for help. We hold our ground, he said finally, turning back to his allies. Whatever Colton's hiding, it's not worth 3 innocent lives. Dr. Priest, can you keep her stable? The older man nodded, already preparing additional medications. I've got enough supplies to manage her care through the night. But Keaton, he looked up, his eyes serious. If they come with force, we can't stop them. Then we better make sure they don't have a reason to use force. Keaton replied, Greer, document everything. Every vital sign, every medication, every sign of distress. If they want to take her, they'll have to explain to a lot of people why. They're risking the lives of an endangered species and her cubs. The monitors beeped steadily in the background as they settled in for what promised to be a long night. Outside, a car drove slowly past the clinic, its headlights sweeping across the windows. A reminder that they were being watched, that Colton's influence reached far beyond the safari park's borders. Greer touched Keaton's arm gently. "We're doing the right thing," she said softly. "Whatever happens." He covered her hand with his own, drawing strength from her unwavering support. Together, they turned back to their patient, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, forces were gathering against them. The court order in Dr. Priest's desk drawer was more than just a legal document. It was proof that their fight had evolved into something far more dangerous than they'd initially imagined. "Hold her steady," Dr. Priest instructed as he ran, the scanner over Sable's shoulder blade again. The leopard dozed under mild sedation, her breathing even and deep. Greer frowned at the digital readout. "That's strange. I'm getting two distinct signals." Keaton moved closer, watching as Greer adjusted the scanning device. "Yes, there's the newer chip we already knew about, but," she repositioned the scanner slightly, "there's definitely another one, older, deeper in the tissue." Dr. Priest leaned in, his weathered face intent. "Let me see that." He took the scanner, making minute adjustments until the second signal strengthened. Numbers flashed across the small screen. "Got it," he muttered, connecting the device to his laptop. "This chip's at least 5 years old, maybe more. Different manufacturer too. They waited in tense silence as the database search ran. When the results appeared, Greer gasped. "Narina," she read aloud. "Female black leopard, born 2018, originally housed at," she squinted at the screen, "the Highland Grove Menagerie in Texas." Highland Grove. Keaton's voice sharpened. That place shut down years ago after a scandal. Several of their rare animals disappeared during the closure. "Disappeared?" Dr. Priest repeated grimly. "Or were stolen?" But at the dates, Keaton studied the information, his expression darkening. "The timing matches perfectly. Highland Grove closes under investigation, and 6 months later, Colton's Park suddenly has a new black leopard with unknown origins." He straightened up, running a hand through his hair. "No wonder he's so desperate to put her down." "She's evidence." "Evidence of what?" Greer asked, though her face suggested she already knew the answer. "Trafficking," Keaton said flatly. "He's been using the park as a front, buy animals cheap from failing facilities, forge new papers, sell them at a premium to private collectors. Or worse, wait for them to have cubs and sell those instead." Dr. Priest nodded slowly. "That's why he can't let these cubs be born. Once they're here, there will be too many questions, too many records, too many witnesses." Greer's hands clenched into fists. "We have to stop him. We have proof now." "Not enough," Keaton cautioned. "A single chip won't bring down someone like Colton. He'll claim it was a mistake, that he bought her legally and didn't know about the old ID." He paced the length of the exam room. "But if we can keep Sable alive until she gives birth, document everything, the cubs would be living proof." Dr. Priest finished. "Their DNA would match Highland Grove's records." Colton couldn't explain that away. A low rumble from Sable drew their attention. The leopard's tail twitched, her breathing quickening despite the sedation. Greer checked the monitors. "Her heart rate's elevated," she reported. "The stress is getting to her." "No wonder," Dr. Priest said. "She was probably taken from her original home by force, moved who knows how many times. Now she's pregnant and surrounded by strangers again." Keaton moved to Sable's side, speaking in the soft, steady voice he used with nervous animals. "We won't let them hurt you," he promised, "or your cubs." Greer joined him, gently checking Sable's vital signs. "The court order makes more sense. Now Colton must have realized we were getting too close. That's why he rushed to get a corrupt judge involved. He's running scared," Keaton agreed, "which makes him even more dangerous." "We need to call Agent Benning, the Fish and Wildlife agent," Dr. Priest asked. "Will she help without more concrete evidence?" "She's been trying to catch Colton for years. This might be enough to get her moving, at least enough to stall any attempts to seize Sable." Keaton pulled out his phone, then hesitated. "We should document everything first." "Greer, can you take detailed photos of both chip readings?" "Dr. Priest, we'll need your professional assessment of her condition in writing." They worked quickly, gathering every scrap of evidence they could. Sable dozed fitfully, her cubs occasionally visible as movement beneath her dark fur. Each kick and shift was a reminder of what was at stake. Not just one life now, but a chance to expose a criminal enterprise that had been operating in plain sight for years. "All this time," Greer said softly, stroking Sable's flank, "he's been hiding behind his reputation as a conservationist, using it to steal and sell the very animals he claimed to protect." "People see what they expect to see," Dr. Priest replied, his voice heavy with experience. "A successful businessman, generous with local charities, friends with all the right people, who would look deeper." "We did," Keaton said firmly, "and now we know the truth. Sable isn't just running out of time, she's the key to bringing down Colton's whole operation. No wonder he's willing to kill her and her cubs to keep his secret." Keaton paced the clinic's back office, phone pressed to his ear. "Agent Benning, I know what this sounds like, but we have proof." 2 different microchips, 2 different IDs for the same Leopard. That's circumstantial at best. Mr. Hale Benning's voice crackled through the speaker. We need something more concrete. Then, let me get it for you. Keaton's jaw tightened. With determination, Colton's desperate. He's making mistakes. If I can get him talking. There was a long pause on the line. You want to wear a wire? Yes. That's incredibly dangerous, especially with someone like Colton. Greer, who had been listening nearby, stepped forward. I'll help. We can set up the meeting somewhere public, somewhere safe. Dr. Priest nodded from his desk. The coffee shop across from the courthouse. Plenty of witnesses, security cameras. Colton won't want to make a scene there. Agent Benning sighed. If, and I mean if we did this, you'd need to be careful. Get him talking about the Leopard specifically, about his plans. No leading questions, no entrapment. I understand, Keaton said. When can you get here? I can be there in 2 hours with the equipment. But Mr. Hale, her voice hardened. Don't try anything until I arrive. After ending the call, Keaton turned to his allies. Greer, can you contact Colton? Tell him I want to meet, to discuss terms? Terms, she asked. He'll think I'm finally ready to be bought off. Keaton's smile was grim. Let him believe it. Dr. Priest stood, his weathered face concerned. This is risky, son. Colton's not just some corrupt businessman. He's been running this scheme for years, which is exactly why we need to stop him, Keaton insisted. How many other animals has he stolen? How many more will he take if we don't end this now? Greer made the call, her voice steady as she spoke, to Colton's office. When she hung up, she nodded. 3 o'clock at the coffee corner, he agreed surprisingly quickly. He thinks he's winning, Dr. Priest observed. That makes him dangerous. The next 2 hours passed in tense preparation. Agent Benning arrived with her equipment, a small recording device and wireless microphone that could be hidden under Keaton's jacket. She tested the setup thoroughly, making sure every word would be captured clearly. Remember, she instructed, let him do most of the talking. The more he says, the better our case. At 2:45, Keaton walked into the coffee corner, taking a seat by the window. Greer positioned herself at a table across the room, pretending to work on her laptop. Dr. Priest waited in his car outside, ready to call for backup if needed, arrived exactly on time, dressed in an expensive hunting jacket despite the warm weather. He ordered a coffee before sitting down, his manner relaxed and confident. I'm glad you finally came to your senses, Hale, he said, stirring sugar into his cup. This whole situation has gotten out of hand. That's one way to put it. Keaton replied carefully. I just want to understand what's really going on here. Colton leaned back, studying him. It's simple. You're interfering with my business. That stops today. By business, you mean getting rid of Sable. That animal is my property, Colton said, sharply. What I do with it is my concern. Keaton kept his voice level, though his hands clenched under the table. Even if it means killing her and her cubs. Sometimes difficult decisions have to be made. Colton's smile didn't reach his eyes. Look, I'm prepared to be generous. Walk away now, you'll find your bank account significantly heavier tomorrow morning. And if I don't, the smile vanished. Then I'll handle this my way. Scrap the mother. Claim stillbirths. No one will question it. These things happen all the time in captive breeding programs. You seem very certain about that. I've been in this business a long time, Hal. Colton's voice dropped lower. I know how to make problems disappear. The only question is whether you want to be smart about this or stupid. Keaton met his gaze steadily. And the fact that she's really Narina from Highland Grove. Will that disappear too? For just a moment, Colton's mask slipped. His eyes widened slightly before he caught himself. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you do. Just like you know about the other animals that conveniently found their way to your park after Highland Grove closed. Colton stood, abruptly, his coffee forgotten. We're done here. And you're done. Period. I tried to be reasonable, but clearly that was a mistake. He leaned down, his voice barely above a whisper. Those cubs will never see daylight. Neither will their mother. And if you keep pushing, you might have an unfortunate accident yourself. He strode out of the coffee shop, leaving Keaton sitting there. A moment later, Greer hurried over. Did you get all that? She asked anxiously. Keaton nodded, his hand touching the hidden microphone. Every word. Agent Benning's voice came through his earpiece. That's exactly what we needed. The threat at the end is just icing on the cake. Stay there, I'm coming. To collect the recording, Greer sat down, relief evident on her face. We did it. We actually did it. We're not done yet, Keaton cautioned. But yes, this is a start. Dr. Priest joined them, sliding into the vacant chair. That man's mask finally cracked. Did you see his face when you mentioned Highland Grove? He never expected anyone to make that connection. Keaton said he's been operating without consequences for so long. He thought he was untouchable. They sat together, waiting for Agent Benning, allowing themselves to feel just a moment of hope. They had their evidence. They had their confession. For the first time since this battle began, victory seemed possible. The sense of victory lasted less than 3 hours. Keaton was helping Dr. Priest check Sable's vital signs when his phone buzzed. It was Agent Benning. Colton's already out, she said. frustration clear in her voice. Posted bond before we could even process him. His lawyers are claiming entrapment. Keaton's stomach dropped. That's impossible. We have him on tape threatening, I know, but he has friends in high places. They're trying to get the recording thrown out as inadmissible evidence. He hung up and shared the news with the others. Dr. Priest shook his head grimly while Greer paced the clinic floor. So what now? She asked. We just wait for him to come after us. Before Keaton could answer, they heard tires crunching on gravel outside. Through the window, they saw Cass Redden's truck pull up. He stepped out, carrying something in his hands. Get Sable secure in her holding area, Keaton ordered, moving toward the door. I'll deal with the first bottle crashed through the window, exploding in a burst of flames. Another followed, then another. Fire bloomed across the floor and climbed the walls with shocking speed. Molotov cocktails, Dr. Priest shouted. He's trying to burn us out. Smoke filled the air as more bottles shattered. Keaton ran to help Greer with Sable, who was thrashing in panic. The leopard's eyes were wide with terror, her pregnant belly heaving. The tranq gun, Greer coughed. We need to, a horrible sound. Cut through the chaos, a deep, pained growl from Sable. She collapsed onto her side, body contorting. She's going into labor, Dr. Priest said. The stress triggered it. We have to get her out. But flames now blocked both exits. The heat was becoming unbearable, and thick black smoke made it hard to see or breathe. Keaton pulled his shirt over his nose, squinting through the haze. The back storage room, he called. It has a reinforced door. If we can get her in there, together. They tried to guide Sable, but the terrified leopard wouldn't move. She lay thrashing, caught between labor pains and panic. Another contraction hit, drawing out an agonized roar. The cubs won't survive if we don't help her, Greer said, dropping to her knees beside the animal. We have to do the C-section now. Here in this, Keaton gestured at the inferno around them. We don't have a choice. Dr. Priest was already pulling supplies from a nearby cabinet. Greer, get the surgical kit. Keaton, we need whatever clean water you can find. They worked frantically as the fire closed in. Dr. Priest's hands remained steady despite the heat and smoke, his focus absolute as he made the first incision. Greer assisted while Keaton kept watch on the flames and tried to keep Sable.com. The leopard's breathing was becoming labored from the smoke or the surgery. Keaton couldn't tell. His own lungs burned with every breath. Sweat poured down his face as he stroked Sable's head, murmuring reassurances he wasn't sure she could hear. First cub, Dr. Priest announced. He worked quickly but carefully, lifting the tiny form free. It's alive. Greer, take it. She cradled the newborn, clearing its airways, while Dr. Priest continued working. A second cub emerged, then a third. Each one drew breath, their small cries barely audible over the roar of the fire. But Sable's eyes were starting to glaze. The smoke was too thick, the heat too intense. Part of the ceiling crashed down nearby, sending sparks flying. We need to move, now, Keaton shouted. The building's going to collapse. Dr. Priest finished the last sutures with shaking hands. Help me lift her. Greer, keep those cubs protected. They struggled to their feet, choking on smoke. The storage room was only 30 feet away, but it might as well have been 30 miles. Flames licked at them from all sides as they half-carried, half-dragged Sable's unconscious form. Something overhead cracked ominously. Keaton looked up to see beams starting to give way. Run, he yelled, pushing the others forward. They stumbled. The last few feet as the ceiling came down behind them, the storage room door slammed shut, trapping them in darkness broken only by the orange glow around its edges. Greer huddled in a corner with the cubs, while Keaton and Dr. Priest tended to Sable. The leopard's breathing was shallow but steady. Outside, they could hear sirens approaching. Someone must have seen the smoke, Dr. Priest said hoarsely. Will they get here in time? Greer asked, clutching the newborn's clothes. Keaton felt the door. It was hot but holding. The room was sealed, well enough that smoke wasn't pouring in, but their air wouldn't last forever. He looked at the others, Dr. Priest's soot-stained face, Greer's determined eyes, the tiny cubs fighting for their first breaths. Sable's still form on the floor. They had saved the cubs, but now they were trapped in a burning building with a sedated leopard, no way out, and rapidly diminishing oxygen. The victory they'd felt earlier seemed like a distant dream. This, Keaton realized, was where their real fight for survival began. The late afternoon rain drummed against the metal roof of the livestock trailer as it wound through mountain roads. Inside, Sable lay quietly with her cubs, monitored by Greer, while Keaton drove. 2 federal vehicles flanked them, Agent Benning's SUV in front and another behind. I still can't believe we made it out of that fire, Greer said softly, checking Sable's vital signs. The leopard's surgical site was healing well, and her 3 cubs nursed contentedly. Keaton glanced in the rearview mirror. Benning moved fast once she heard about the arson. That federal warrant was our saving grace. The rain intensified as they approached the narrow bridge spanning Carter's Gorge 60 feet below. The river churned, angry and swollen from days of storms. Keaton slowed the truck, watching Agent Benning's taillights through the curtain of water. A pair of headlights appeared suddenly at the far end of the bridge. They accelerated toward the convoy, growing larger by the second. That's Colton's truck, Keaton said, recognizing the distinctive grill. He's not stopping. Agent Benning's voice crackled over their radio. All units, hostile vehicle approaching. Box formation. The impact cut her off. Colton's massive pickup slammed into the Federal SUV, sending it spinning. The livestock trailer jackknifed as Keaton fought the wheel. Metal screamed against metal as the trailer crashed through the guardrail. "Hold on," Keaton yelled at the world tilted sickeningly. The trailer teetered on the edge, its back half suspended over the gorge. Inside, Greer grabbed the cage bars to stay upright while Sable and her cubs slid toward the rear. "The cubs?" Greer cried. She lunged for them, managing to secure two. The third tumbled toward the trailer's back doors. Sable surged forward despite her stitches, catching her cub by the scruff before it could fall. The movement sent more weight toward the rear, and the trailer groaned. Outside, tires squealed on wet pavement. Colton's truck reversed for another run at them. "Agent Bennett," voice rang out. "Federal agent, stop your vehicle." 2 gunshots cracked through the rain. Colton's truck swerved, then accelerated straight at the trailer. "He's going to push us off." Keaton scrambled into the back, trying to shift weight forward. The trailer swayed precariously. With each movement, Greer pressed herself against the front wall, clutching the cubs. Sable remained eerily calm, holding her third cub while staring at the approaching headlights. The impact never came. Agent Benning's second vehicle rammed Colton's truck from the side, spinning it away from the trailer. They heard shouting more, gunshots, then the unmistakable sound of handcuffs clicking. "Suspect in custody," Agent Benning called. "Rescue units are 3 minutes out. How's everyone inside?" "Alive," Keaton answered shakily, "but we're not stable." The trailer shifting, as if to prove his point. Metal groaned beneath them. The trailer slipped another few inches toward the gorge. Rain drummed harder on the roof. Wind buffeted the suspended trailer, making it sway. 60 feet below, the river roared past jagged rocks. "We need to get them out," Keaton said, "but any sudden movement could send us over." Greer looked at Sable, then at the cubs in her arms. "We can't wait for rescue. The trailer won't hold that long." More creaking sounds emphasized her point. The trailer lurched, dropping another inch. Water from the gorge below sprayed up through the gaps in the flooring. They heard emergency sirens approaching, but the sound seemed very far away. The trailer groaned again, and this time something snapped underneath. They were running out of time. Keaton and Greer exchanged looks. They both knew what had to happen next, though neither wanted to say it. The cubs needed to go first, then Sable, then them, if there was time. But with the trailer ready to plunge into the gorge at any moment, even that simple plan seemed impossibly dangerous. Possibly dangerous. Rain continued, pouring down as rescue vehicles arrived, their lights painting the bridge in rotating red and blue. But with the trailer hanging halfway off the edge, no one could reach them without risking sending the whole thing over. Trapped between sky and water, with precious lives depending on their next move, the trailer swayed again in the wind, and somewhere beneath them, another support gave way with a sickening crack. Inside the tilting trailer, Keaton moved with deliberate slowness toward Sable. Her yellow eyes tracked his every movement as he settled into a crouch nearby. The Leopard's sides heaved with labored breathing, her surgical sight showing signs of strain from the earlier impact. "Easy, girl," Keaton murmured, letting out a series of low huffing sounds, the same calming signals he'd used with big cats for years. "We're going to help you." Dr. Priest worked his way forward carefully, medical kit clutched against his chest. Every shift of weight made the trailer groan ominously. Rain drummed against the metal roof while wind rocked the unstable structure. "The cubs are in distress," Priest said quietly, checking the portable monitor Greer held. "We need to do this now." Greer positioned herself with the emergency medical supplies, using a flashlight clenched between her teeth to illuminate the area. Her hands trembled slightly as she prepared the IV line. "Sable knows us," Keaton said, continuing the huffing sounds. "But she's scared. The sedation from earlier has worn off, and she's in pain." Priest nodded grimly. "We can't fully sedate her. Again, it's too risky for the cubs. We'll have to work with minimal medication." The trailer lurched suddenly, making everyone freeze. Metal screamed as the structure settled another inch toward the gorge. 60 feet below, the river's roar seemed to grow louder. "Now," Priest commanded, moving in with practiced efficiency. Keaton kept his eyes locked on Sable's, maintaining the calming sounds even as Greer started the IV. The Leopard's muscles tensed, but she held still, perhaps sensing their intent to help through the rain-streaked windows. Emergency lights cast alternating red and blue shadows across the scene. They could hear shouting outside as rescue teams tried to secure the trailer. Priest worked quickly, his weathered hands steady despite the precarious situation. "First incision," he muttered. "Keep her calm, Keaton." The moment the scalpel touched her flesh, Sable's composure broke. With a snarl of pain and fear, she lashed out lightning fast. Her claws raked across Keaton's forearm, leaving deep gashes, but he didn't flinch away. "Stay with me, girl," he gritted out, maintaining his position despite the blood now dripping down his arm. Almost there. Greer's hands flew to adjust the IV flow, her voice steady despite her obvious fear. "Bleeding's minimal. Stats holding, the trailer swayed again in a strong gust of wind. Outside, they heard Agent Benning shouting orders, followed by the sounds of struggle. Got them, someone yelled. Colton and Redden are in custody. Priest remained focused entirely on his task. Decades of experience evident in every precise movement. First cub, he announced, hands moving surely despite the unstable surface. Greer. She was there instantly with warm towels, cleaning the tiny leopard cub as it emerged. A thin cry pierced the tense atmosphere, the sound of new life defying all odds. Second one coming? Priest said, his calm voice belying the sweat on his forehead. Another cry joined the first as the second cub arrived, both sounds mixing with the ongoing storm and the shouts of rescue workers outside. Keaton kept his position, blood still flowing from his arm, but his eyes now shone with barely contained emotion. Sable's tension seemed to ease as she heard her cub's cries, though she remained alert and dangerous. The sound of heavy machinery cut through the rain. Chain motors whirred as rescue teams finally managed to secure cables to the trailer's frame. Slowly, agonizingly, the structure began to move back from the precipice. Careful, Benning's voice carried over the noise. We've got people in there. The trailer groaned and shuddered as it was pulled to safety, inch by precious inch. Priest never looked up from his work, completing the final sutures with the same steady hands that had started the procedure. Well done, old girl, Keaton murmured to Sable, who was now focused intently on the sounds of her cubs. The leopard's eyes were tired but alert, her posture relaxing incrementally as the danger passed. The trailer finally settled fully onto solid ground with a great metallic sigh. Through the windows, they could see Colton and Cass being led away in handcuffs, their expressions a mix of rage and defeat. Greer moved carefully forward with the cubs, now cleaned and swaddled. Under Keaton's watchful eye, she placed them within Sable's reach. The leopard immediately began checking them over, her powerful maternal instincts overtaking any remaining aggression. 3 months later, sunlight streamed through the sanctuary's observation windows as Keaton watched the verdict being read on a small television in the break room, his arm still bearing the fresh pink scars from Sable's claws, tingled as Derek Colton's face appeared on screen. On the charges of animal trafficking, evidence tampering, and first-degree arson, the news anchor reported, Derek Colton has been sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. His associate, Cass Redden, received 8 years for his role in the crimes. Greer appeared in the doorway, her new sanctuary vest displaying her promoted position as head veterinarian. They're reading about the judge too, she said, sitting beside Keaton. The anchor continued. In related news, County Judge Marshall Whitmore has submitted his resignation following an ethics investigation into his involvement with the Colton Safari Park case. Keaton released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. Hard to believe it's really over. Come on, Greer said, taking his hand. Someone wants to show off her cubs. They walked through the sanctuary's rehabilitation Area 2, the spacious enclosed habitat where Sable, now properly called Narina, had made her home. The space was filled with natural vegetation, climbing structures, and a small pool. Through the safety barrier, they could see her lounging on a raised platform, watching her cubs explore their world. Look at how big they've gotten, Greer marveled, pointing to the female cub who was stalking a butterfly. The male cub was practicing his climbing skills on a nearby log. Agent Benning approached from the monitoring station, clipboard in hand. Final paperwork's done, she announced. The sanctuary has full legal custody now. No one's going to threaten them again. Thank you, Keaton said sincerely, for believing us when it mattered. Benning smiled. Actually, I should be thanking you. Colton's conviction opened up 3 other trafficking investigations. We're dismantling the entire network. After she left, Greer unlocked the security door to the protected walkway inside the enclosure. As certified handlers, they could safely interact with Narina, who had grown comfortable with their presence during her recovery. The leopard raised her head as they entered, her eyes showing recognition. She stretched lazily and descended from her perch, moving toward them with fluid grace. The cubs, spotting the visitors, scrambled over to investigate. Easy there, little ones. Greer laughed as the male cub batted playfully at her boots. The female cub darted between them, practicing her own stalking technique. Keaton knelt down, and Narina approached him with familiar confidence. She nudged his scarred arm with her nose, a gesture she'd taken to repeating, as if acknowledging their shared experience in the trailer. You're welcome, he murmured, carefully scratching behind her ears. The trust between them felt earned, built on that harrowing night when they'd all chosen to fight for life despite impossible odds. Greer watched them with soft eyes. So, are you really done with contract work? Yeah? Keaton nodded, standing up. Turns out there's something to be said for putting down roots. He looked meaningfully at her. If you'll have me around, I suppose I could use a qualified assistant, she teased, then grew serious. The sanctuary's expanding. We'll be taking in more rescued animals, helping expose more operations like Colton's. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is, Keaton replied, watching as the female cub wobbled between them, declaring the space her territory with tiny growls. The sun was setting now, painting the habitat in warm golden light. Narina gathered her cubs with gentle nudges, guiding them toward their evening routine. Before following them, she paused to look back at Keaton and Greer. A moment of connection between species that seemed to acknowledge everything they'd been through together. Greer slipped her hand into Keaton's, ready to head home. Home, he repeated, testing the word. After years of moving from crisis to crisis, the idea of staying put should have felt strange. Instead, watching Narina with her cubs, standing beside Greer in this sanctuary they'd all fought to protect, it felt exactly right. They walked out together as the sanctuary's evening lights came on, illuminating the path ahead. Behind them, Narina's cubs played in the growing dusk, their future now secure. Their family safe at last. The sight of the Leopard family, thriving despite everything that had tried to destroy them, served as a living testament to what courage and conviction could achieve. Like them, Keaton and Greer had found their own kind of sanctuary in their work, in justice served, and in each other. If this ending felt like it was written for you, subscribe and join me tomorrow for another story that might feel the same.